Hey guys, it's Ben here from Strength Factory, and today I want to talk to you about this, the Enduro Mountain Bike Medical Study. Now this is the biggest medical study or injury study of mountain biking that's ever been done, apparently, and it's been done by the guys over at the Enduro World Series. Now if you are interested in mountain biking, performance, as a coach, a rider, athlete, then you need to look at this. Whether you do downhill or enduro, I think it's still really relevant and really important. Now, what they've done is they've brought together information and data from over 2 years of racing, literally hundreds of participants, to find out what are the greatest physical risks to people doing enduro mountain biking. And so if you go to enduroworldseries.com, you'll be able to find this study, okay? Now, there's loads of interesting stuff in there, but some of the most interesting bits are like this, okay? And it breaks down the most likely parts of the body to become injured. And it turns out that that is actually the shoulder and clavicle, so collarbone, AC joint, as well as other associated shoulder injuries. And then right at the bottom, what we have is the recommendations, and that's at the bottom of page 12. I'm just going to read one of them out to you. Provisions for and rider use of shoulder, pre-habilitation and rehabilitation training exercises to help reduce the number and/or severity of significant shoulder injuries. So that's what I want to talk to you about today, okay? How to look after these shoulders. And this is for men and women, but it was found in this that women were quite a lot more likely to suffer a serious injury whilst doing enduro mountain biking. And my experience is that every woman who walks in the door to train with me needs to improve their upper body strength, okay? And that's going to make you maybe less likely to fall off your bike. And then when you do fall off it, inevitably, because we all do, hopefully you've got a bit more strength going on in the shoulder to support yourself. So first of all, let's talk about the shoulder and what we want to achieve through your training to try and make your shoulders as robust as possible. Now the first thing we need to look at is getting a full range of motion. And so your range of motion is all the different places that you can put your, a limb, in this case the shoulder, the arm. So here, are you able to put your arm overhead? Can you put it out to the side here? Are you restricted across the chest? Do you spend too long at a desk and you've got a rounded upper back there that's going to then restrict your overhead mobility? Because if you're restricted in any way through your shoulder, then straight away, if you go into that position in a crash situation, you're way more likely to hurt it. So what I want to do is just give you a really quick and basic way of assessing your shoulder mobility, and this is actually taken from my MTB mobility training program. So you can see there that I'm lying flat on my back with my knees up, and hopefully you saw at the start I rocked my pelvis back, and what I was doing is I was flattening my lower back onto the floor. I was then squeezing my stomach and just letting the arms drop down overhead, thumbs down. Now what we're looking to do here is to keep your lower back flat on the floor, my ribs tucked in so no flaring, and to lay my arms flat on the floor. So I'm going to show you that again, and then I'm going to show you what a lot of you guys are going to be doing and seeing and experiencing. So as you can see there, the first one was correct. Back was flat on the floor, stomach's tight, ribs are tucked in, and I laid my arms flat on the floor. The second one, I maintained my back flat on the floor, and I was strict, which is what you should do, but my arms did not get to the floor. There was like a gap like this, and that shows that you're lacking in that overhead range of motion. The third one, I brought the arms all the way back until they were on the floor, but you will have seen my ribs flare up and my lower back will have arched. Again, showing that to get my arms on the floor, I had to compensate through other areas of the body, and showing that you need to do some work on your overhead mobility. Okay, so first part of this video, I'm going to give you some overhead mobility drills to help improve that position to make you more robust in the shoulders. We're going to start working on the overhead mobility now, and we're going to start off with a bit of work on the foam roller. Now, there's 100 ways to go about doing this. This is just some things that you should try out, okay? And when I say try, I don't mean do it once and expect it to be better. I mean do it day in, day out for a prolonged period of time. If you think about it, your overhead mobility was probably fine as a kid, and then over the last 10, 15, 20 years, you haven't used it, and then gradually it's got worse. So if it takes that long to lose it, then don't expect to get it back overnight with one session on the roller. So we're going to start off by working on the thoracic spine, which is the upper back, which is a big area that a lot of people I see need to work on because they spend too long driving, on their phones, on their laptops, and then also on their bike. A lot of people ride with a very rounded posture. So we're going to start off, we're going to put the roller across the upper back, and we're just going to loosen off, and then we're going to do lie back over the roller. So, nice and simple. First of all, I lifted the hips and I just rolled it up and down a bit, and to be honest, that's just quite nice. You might get a nice crack, and it's just a nice way to ease into doing this and get used to the pressure of the roller. I then lie the roller across my back, kind of just below the shoulder blades, hips on the floor, and you can see there that I supported my head and lay back over it. Okay, a lot of people find it's a bit intense if you don't do that, but you can also lay your arms back overhead as I did at the end. So I lay back over it, and you'll also notice I have my stomach tight, because what's really tempting is that as you lay over it, is that your ribs are going to flare up and you're going to end up just arching your lower back, when we're not targeting the lower back, we're targeting the upper back. So by keeping the stomach tight, tuck your ribs in, that's going to keep your lower back flat and mean that we can work on opening up and improving the posture of the thoracic spine, upper back. So I hold it for a while, come up, and then I move slightly so the roller is a little higher on my back, and then we're going to go again. Stomach tight, lie back over it, and what we're doing is just trying to put your thoracic spine into that extension position that's going to help to correct the rounded posture that a lot of modern people have. So the second area that we're going to attack is down here, okay? Not your stinky armpits, but your lats, okay? And they are massive muscles, or they should be, okay, down your back. And when you see like a real hench dude who's like triangular shaped, that's his lats basically, that kind of come out from the side. And if they're really tight, then it's going to really restrict you overhead. So we're going to do a bit of work with the roller on the lats, and this is potentially going to be quite uncomfortable, okay? Okay, so you see there, you're kind of like lying like you're on the beach or something like that, with the roller going across my lats there. Okay, now you'll see there that I wasn't just like blindly rolling up and down like you see a lot of people doing. Okay, that's not really going to do anything for your muscles. It might feel nice, but it's not really going to make any progress. What I was looking for was like a lumpy, sort of knotty bit, an adhesion in the muscle, and then when I was on that, and you know, because it's really uncomfortable with one of the knobbles on the roller, you saw me just gently rocking on that, on the knobble, on that knot or whatever it is. Okay, and so there, imagine if you've ever had a sports massage, it's like a masseuse's thumb just gently rocking over that bit. So I'm going to work it like that, and then you may have also seen I then rolled over it that way, so the roller stays still and I roll laterally across it as well, so we're attacking it from two directions. So you're going to rock and you're going to roll. Sounds good. And once you've done that, literally for maybe like a minute on that one spot, okay, and I mean a minute, you're then going to find another lumpy, nasty spot on that lat, and so on, until you know, spent 5 or 6 minutes working your lats, maybe 3 minutes on each side, working 3 spots on each side. Okay, the third way that we're going to attack the overhead mobility is using a mobility ball. Now, you can use a roller for this, but if you've got a ball available, then that's best. And if you don't have a proper mobility ball, then just use a tennis ball or like a hockey ball, cricket ball, you know, whatever you want. Just something hard enough that's going to be able to get in here, okay, to do some release. Now, the reason we're going to work here is basically your pecs. They feed through here, so from across your chest where you know your pecs are, hopefully, they come through here, they kind of feed through a gap, and then they come into the top of the arm. And basically, we can get like really sort of tight and bound up in here, and that's obviously going to restrict your range of motion and mobility out to the side as well as overhead. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a bit of work in here. So you're not really going to be able to see this very well, but this is going to be underneath me. I'm going to lean into it, and I'm just going to breathe on it and gently rock and roll. That is pretty minging. I think I need some more of that, even though my overhead mobility is good. So they're the manual techniques, first of all, using the roller and the ball. And we're then going to move on to some more movement-based work to get that overhead mobility. Okay, now we're going to do a couple of movement-based drills to help improve that overhead mobility. And this doesn't need to be complicated. All you've got to think about is, you know, the idea of use it or lose it. The reason you don't have that overhead mobility at the moment is because you haven't used it for whatever reason, okay? So if you want to then find it again and access again, then we need to start getting into those ranges of motion regularly, okay? Now, initially, that's going to take a little bit of brute force, okay? It shouldn't be painful though, to get into those positions, you know, 5 days a week or something like that, to gain that mobility back, and then it's quite easy to maintain it, just, you know, with a little mobility a couple of times a week. So you do the work now, and it pays dividends in the long run. So I only use this box, but if you're at home or whatever, you can use the edge of the couch or something like that. And it's really simple. We're just going to take ourselves to that maximum range of motion, okay? So you'll see it's nice and simple. It's pretty similar to the test we did at the start, except I'm just pushing my chest down to get as much range as I can out of my shoulders without it hurting. You should also notice there that my stomach was tight, and that kept my lower back flat. Because remember, if I relax my stomach, then all that's going to happen is this. I'm going to arch my lower back. Okay, and that's super important. The details count when it comes to mobility and when it comes to training. The second one we're going to do is a variation of that, and it needs a small bit of kit. I'm going to use a medicine ball. It's about 5 kilos. You can use a light bar. You could use a lighter med ball, or even just a bottle of water or something to start with that's a couple of kilos. Anything to just increase the range a little bit. Oh, that one feels good. That's quite intense. So I rest the weight of the ball between my shoulder blades because it's a nice soft ball, and I can do that, keep my stomach tight like before, and just the head just drops between the arms there, and you get a massive stretch across the chest. If you're using a bar, then you're obviously not going to rest it across your upper back. Okay, it needs to be a light bar, but you let it roll back to help drop you into that position, working on the overhead mobility. Okay, the next part is going to be using a doorway. Okay, so this is a great one to do at home, and it's actually called like a doorway stretch, and we're going to use the door frame on the side and overhead to really stretch out the chest and also the overhead position. So I place my arm around the door frame, turn away from it, and you're going to feel the big stretch across here. It's going to help you to stretch out and open up that position. It's going to give you more range of motion. Obviously, you're going to do it on both sides. So you may want to try doing it on both sides at once, but I find it's better to do one side at a time and really concentrate on getting it correct. We're now going to go overhead and use the top of the door. Okay, so that's really similar to the one we did earlier, where I was sort of in a kneeling position in front of the box. But the great thing about the door is that we can really mix up and use the whole frame, and so we can go in like a Y shape and lots of different positions that are going to be actually really applicable to falling off your bike. With all of these, I'm really focusing on my posture, remember. If I'm overhead and arched, then all I'm doing is I'm working on my lower spine mobility instead of the upper spine and shoulders. So that is part one of this video series, all about the mobility. Little and often is the way to go with this. Okay, so 5 days a week, 20 minutes, something like that, if not morning and evening, until you make that progress. Remember, this shouldn't hurt, okay? If there's an actual injury there, then go and get it diagnosed. Go and see a good sports physio and get a diagnosis and get some good advice. Start working on that mobility right away. There's no time like the present. And in the next video, I'm going to talk to you about how to pack some muscle on those shoulders, because muscle is the best body armor, and how to make them strong, which is going to improve your riding and hopefully help to make you more robust. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit subscribe, and in the comments below, I would love it if you let me know how you're getting on with your training and your shoulder mobility work. Cheers.